welcome back to Ashart Books. Today I'm here to do another recent reads. So these are going to be the last 5 books that I read. So the first 2 books I'm going to talk about, I'm going to kind of talk about together because they're in a series. And if you watched my last video, you will know that I have been reading and absolutely loving the Stalking Jack the Ripper series by Carrie Maniscalco. So in the last couple of weeks, I finished the 3rd book, which is Escaping from Houdini, and I'll put a picture up because I read that one from the library and already returned it. And then I also just finished Capturing the Devil, which is book 4 and the last book of the series. There's also a novella in the middle of 3 and 4 called Becoming the Dark Prince, which is a really good kind of book to transition you from 3 to 4. It's told from Thomas's perspective, our hero, and it's a really good book to kind of show you some of the events. So I wanted to just talk about these together because obviously it's book 3 and 4 in a series. I can't go into too much detail, but in Escaping from Houdini, the story takes place on a cruise liner, which is really cool. So it's a very fancy ship, kind of think like Titanic vibes. And the whole story basically is about, on this cruise liner, there is a kind of a carnival called the Moonlit Carnival, I think is what they're calling it. And at the start of the book, people keep dying, keep being murdered, and no one knows what's happening. It's very creepy, just like the first 2 books. I did think book 2 was kind of the creepiest of them all, but book 3, I gave it 5 stars. I've given all the books in the series. No, I think I gave the first one 4. Basically in the story, it's just Thomas and Audrey Rose kind of trying to figure out this murder, but it's really interesting because they're stuck on this boat in the middle of the ocean, so it kind of made for a really different setting this time. I will say this one was probably my least favorite in the series. I think just because some of the decisions that some of the characters made weren't my favorite, and it was kind of one of those situations where I understood why they were making the choices, but I still didn't like them. So I think I did still give it 5 stars, but I did have a couple things I didn't love. However, the novella, great, gave it 5 stars. It was really quick. And then the last book, Capturing the Devil, this one was fantastic. I really liked the way they took it. They're in America, so part of this takes place in New York and part of it takes place in Chicago. And I just thought that it was such a good conclusion. It really kind of captured the essence of the whole series. It was creepy, the mystery was really great, and it really ties back to the first book really well. So if you've read the rest of the series, you have to finish it off with the last one. Also, the romance in this series, as I've said, is fantastic. It's my favorite. It's so good. And I just think it's one of the best YA romances that I've read recently. The 4th book, it's a little steamier, and I was here for that. So I really loved it, and it's a great series for this time of year. The next book I wanted to talk about is Love Spells for the End of the World, and I'll put a picture up because it has a really adorable cover. I mentioned this one in my last video, which was about fall reads, but I also wanted to talk about it now. I wasn't this book from the author. I believe it's pronounced Alice Murray, but if it's Elise, I'm very sorry. It's one of the 2. So she was very kind and sent me this book to read, and I loved it. It was really cute. This story basically is about a girl named Jezebel, but she goes by Belle, that is a witch who isn't all that good at magic, but she lives in this magical town, very a la like Halloween towny vibes, where there's all these different magical creatures that live in this town. Basically, something happens and Belle needs help to fix this problem. So she seeks out a witch hunter who has been trying to murder her for a long time, but has not actually succeeded, and she needs his help. And his name is Eli, and he lives right over the border of like the magical and human worlds. It was such a fun story. It was a really quick read. It was pretty lighthearted. I think if you want something just full of fall vibes, it had pretty much anything you'd want. You know, it had the cute town. It takes place on Halloween. It definitely had a lot of reminiscent qualities of like Halloween Town and Hocus Pocus, where like the humans can come over to the town like only on that one night. It was really cute. I really enjoyed it, and if you're looking for something fun and quick to read for fall, it was definitely adorable. The next book I want to talk about is When Beauty Tamed the Beast by Eloisa James. I finally read this book. This is book 2 in her kind of like fairy tale retelling series. But you can definitely read them as standalones. I think they really don't cross over all that much other than the fact that they're retellings. So obviously this is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and I really liked this one. I give it 4 stars, maybe like a 4.5. So in this book, basically you have your heroine, Lynette, who has a bit of a conundrum in her life, and it's basically that there's a rumor that's kind of been started, and during this time, rumors were quite bad, right? And the rumor is that she is somehow with child. She's pregnant. And so she's kind of ruined, even though Lynette has done nothing. Her dress just made her look pregnant. And so she is this problem. Her dad and her aunt are like, we're gonna fix this. There is this really rich man who, I can't remember, I believe he was like a duke. His name is Piers. I can't remember, but he lives in Wales, and he is known as like the Beast. And he is not able to have children, so they're like, hey, we'll set you up with him, it'll be great. He wants a baby, you've got one, and of course Lynette's like, guys, I don't actually have a child. But that's like the setup. Piers is actually a doctor, even though he is in the aristocracy, which is kind of unusual, and he has a really interesting backstory. Basically, you've got your Beast, and I like that he was a beast, definitely from his personality. Who's very gruff, very grumpy. He really just wanted to be a doctor and did not have the best bedside manner at all. And Lynette was a very sweet character, but also was very beautiful. And I think what this book said about inner beauty and all of that kind of thing was really well done. Eloisa James is hysterical. And I don't know if anyone else could have made this storyline work in such a good way, because it was so funny. And I was just laughing hysterically, but also it was really touching and really heartfelt. There's a couple scenes near the end that had me like near tears, and I just really enjoyed this retelling. I thought I liked that it was set in Wales. That was different, and overall I thought it was a really fun book. The only reason I gave it 4 instead of 5 was there was just a couple plot points near the middle to end of the book that I didn't love, and I just kind of wished it had gone a different way, but I still loved it and would really recommend. The next book I want to talk about is Cold-Hearted Boss by R.S. Gray. This is actually the pick for the Lovely Ladies Book Club that myself and Jen and Avery and Stacy all are a part of. And so if you would like to join us, we are going to be talking about this in a live show that is, I think when I put this up, it'll be next Saturday, October 5th. I think. It's whatever that Saturday is. I believe it's October 5th. I keep this brief because obviously we'll be going into a lot of detail there, but I really enjoyed this. I will say, to me, it wasn't as much of a rom-com. Like, R.S. Gray is definitely known for her romantic comedies, as it was just a really good contemporary romance. There were funny moments, and this enters the whole conversation of like, what makes a book a rom-com? Because I thought it was funny, but it was to me a little bit like a harder subject matter, I guess, or a more serious subject matter than sometimes a rom-com would have. So anyways, I'm getting off track. So in this book, you have your main character, Taylor, and she has just really down on her luck. She is doing her best, she's working hard, and she feels like she cannot get out of the situation that she is in. And I think it was a really relatable situation, one that, you know, she doesn't really have any control over, and she desperately needs a job. And basically, I'm trying to be vague because I feel like I don't want to give away some of the like plot points here, but she hears that there is a company coming to town that's going to hire a bunch of guys to work on construction, and they're paying really well. So she goes out for the job, and it's kind of, she's not necessarily disguising as a guy, she's just kind of trying to blend in more than actually trying to like be a guy. And she gets hired, and it turns out the person who is her boss is somebody that she had an interaction with before, and it was so good, guys. The angst between our two main characters, our hero is Ethan in the book, and it was so good. Like the banter and just those scenes where there's some forced proximity in this book. That's all I'm gonna say. It was so good. I really, really enjoyed it, and it's probably one of my recent favorites from R.S. Gray that I've read. So definitely pick it up if you haven't already. The last one I'm going to talk about, I think this is actually 6 books, but we're going to go with it, and that's Rustic Hearts. And I forgot to write the author's name down, but I'll make sure to put up a picture because I love the cover of this, but I did read it on my Kindle, so I can't remember who the author was. I picked this up because I saw that Shelby from Shelby Taggart was reading it, and it sounded just perfect. And I really wanted something contemporary. Basically, in this book, you have our main character who moved away from her small town in Colorado when she was young with her mom, who basically just overnight moved them away to New York City. And she never really knew exactly why. She left her dad, her aunts, her whole family on the ranch, and she was thrust into this other world, and she kind of always wanted them to come after her, and they never did. So obviously there's a lot of kind of like bad blood between her and her father's family, and it's just kind of been her and her mom in New York. So our main character is now pretty successful. She is working at her own, or she owns her own jewelry company in New York, and her mom has gotten remarried to a bigwig, but she gets a call from her aunt that her Grams has passed away, and so she has to go back to her hometown, or she decides to go back to kind of pay respect to her grandmother, but also I think kind of try and get some closure. It's been 20 years since she was there. That leads to a lot of drama. So our hero in the book is actually, so it's kind of complicated, but basically when her father got remarried and he adopted or took in his new wife's nephew and niece. I don't know if that makes sense. So our hero is that person who was kind of like adopted into the family, but they're not actually related. Don't worry, it's not like taboo or anything. So he's our hero, and the two of them at first, oh my gosh, they butt heads like nobody's business. She's the city girl. He's like not having all that prissiness, and he, you know, likes to work on the ranch and be, you know, covered in dirt and stuff like that. You get the picture here. It was definitely an opposites attract type of thing. It was, I don't know if you'd say hate to love, but it was definitely like dislike to love. And I just love this book. It was so full of heart, and it was so just, it was everything I want in a contemporary romance. And I finished it like, I think about a week ago, maybe a few days ago, but I really keep thinking about it, and I already kind of want to reread it. So if you're looking for a good contemporary, I definitely would recommend Rustic Hearts. I just thought it was really good, and it was a surprise because I really didn't know anything about the book or the author. I just thought it sounded good and picked it up. So sometimes those are my absolute favorite reads. All right guys, those are the last 6 books that I've read. So let me know what you guys are reading. Have you read any of these? Do you want to? It's like absolutely fall now, so are you reading any good fall reads? I would love to know. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.